Hello and welcome to the Scaling Europe show. I'm Seb Johnson. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like what you see, please like, comment, subscribe. The more engagement, the more visibility, the better guests I can get and the better coverage I can provide of the European tech ecosystem. I would also like to say a huge thank you to my sponsors, Checkout.com, one of Europe's leading fintechs, and it is where the world checks out, and SurrealDB, the multimodal database for AI agent, which is partnered with thousands of the leading organizations, including the likes of NVIDIA and Samsung. So if you like both of those, check them out in the links below. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome back to the Scaling Europe show. I'm here with Roman, one of the co-founders and chief business officer of Nebius. Nebius is such an interesting company. It kind of was born out of Yandex. Yandex, obviously the big Russian company. I think it was often called Google for Russia, or the Russian Google. The Ukraine war came into to play, and as a result, Yandex had to sell off and offload all of its Russian assets, property, infrastructure, got delisted, and then came back as Nebius. Nebius is now a kind of like an AI infrastructure company building the groundworks, the infrastructure to enable the enterprise companies and AI companies to succeed at scale. So yeah, I'm here with Roman. How was that, Roman? Was that an accurate reflection of the journey so far?
Yeah, hi, thank you for having me here. I think it was quite accurate. I have one small correction, actually, that we never were delisted.
Oh, okay.
Our trades on NASDAQ were frozen for 2.5 years, a little bit more. And then we just overnight continued to trade with a new business, new name, some of the team inherited.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's quite a unique situation on the public market.
I mean, it's so interesting. I mean, yeah, let's get into all of that. But first, let's to touch on, you've just announced some big news. Can you touch on what you've announced, who it's for, and why it's important?
Sure. Yeah. So what we launched today is the product called Nebius Token Factory, which is essentially the next layer of the cloud, full stack cloud we built. And it's built to serve the inference needs of every vertical AI company and cloud native companies that apply AI, and in the future enterprises, classical enterprises. And we provide the full experience to use open weight models in optimized way, fine tune them, and actually build a flywheel of improvement, AI applications and AI products on scale. I think it's the very natural step for us. We always told that how we see the company is not just the large infrastructure company, not just scaling horizontally and building more and more gigawatts and deploying larger and larger clusters, but actually building the full stack offering for everyone who built on AI. And we started to do it with our multi-tenancy cloud, which I believe is one of the best products now out there. And now the next layer is actually for the next wave of customers that we see who, as I said, vertical AI companies and cloud natives and enterprises who actually start from a part of the previous kind of most of demand. They not start from building foundational technologies like foundational models, but they come actually to build a use case for the customers. And they need kind of new capabilities that we provide.
Yeah, absolutely. And people, you've already got some early adopters kind of using the Token Factory, right? Can you touch a bit more on who those people are? What are they using it for?
Yeah. So just a few examples. For example, we have a video gen company, Hicksfield, who are building B2C product in video generation. And what we help them with is to build a very, very efficient, scalable infrastructure to serve inference and meet their quite aggressive needs in unit economics. So you can think about it like you cannot build it in a very naive mode, because when you come to B2C market, like the unit economics of acquisition becomes super important on scale. And you need to do all the optimizations that you can to, I don't know, like not over provision resources and serve like scale up only infrastructure that you really need. And you also want to do all the tweaks like, I don't know, tiering the customers and serve more premium customers with the better SLAs and the tail customers with the some other relaxed SLA, but for the cheaper price and so on and so forth. So we help them to build this infrastructure that actually enables them to do the business they do. Another example is one of the e-commerce companies in the process, which is like large international holding. And this is different type of the customer coming from this like pre-AI era, like cloud native, digital company, but pre-AI era. We help them with few use cases. One interesting use case, they moved all their user notification processes to AI. And they had the task to reduce the cost comparing to the closed source models that they started with dramatically. And we could reduce the cost 26 times for them, which sounded like quite insane. But this is doable with the right combination of the smaller models and optimization that we did for them. Another example is like large e-commerce company that needs to process a lot of data we call it batch inference. So again, you are not optimizing for the latency, but you optimize for the throughput and the price. And here we leverage the fact that we are full stack, and we actually can use the fact that we control the underlying infrastructure, and we can schedule, we can orchestrate their workloads in a spare capacity that we have from other customers, and make sure that we actually provide them the cheapest price possible. Because for us, it's like, everything in our business, everything better than idle capacity. So if we can utilize it with this kind of high throughput, high latency, like type of workloads, it's good for us, and for them it's also super win, because they reduce the price and have very flexible throughput. So this is just an example of the type of the customers, but we see everything from conversational AI, like all the types of the chat and conversational applications. We see this kind of data processing workloads. We see e-commerces that do recommendations and search. So like variety of cases.
Yeah, and 26 times cheaper is a phenomenal result. Do you see, is that like a best case scenario? Do you see that going even further as time goes on?
Yeah, it's interesting because actually I think the market, let's say the non-professionals in the market underestimate how good you can optimize for the specific use case. So we see a lot of leaderboards that show like what model and what provider performs better, and it's important to show up there. But in the real use cases that we see, when the specific customer comes, they always come with their specific SLAs that they need, because everyone has their own limitations. And what is important, everyone has their own stream of queries, type of customers and type of data they deal with. And then you have a variety of optimization techniques that you can apply for the specific workload. And actually the platform we built is the platform that simplifies for them to find the ideal setup that actually serves their specific workload on their scale, on their limitations in the best efficient way, to meet the economics, to have the flexibility to scale with the customers, and actually which we didn't mention, but the important thing is to control their destiny and control the data to make sure that their main asset, which is in our AI era, is data, is handled right and applied to improve their use case in the best way.
Yeah, got it. That's super interesting. And I guess like so much of this has been built around enabling product inference using open source models. Are you seeing an increase in demand for open source models? And do you think that's a trend that's going to continue?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we are in a very interesting time when um, I like to tell it that the AI demand is like has few waves. The first wave of demand came from foundational model builders, not necessarily the largest ones, but like we have the largest one, the super labs, and we have like dozens or hundreds of the specialized model builders, and they were the beginners of the market. Then the second wave is actually these vertical AI companies, and there was the word not very pleasant GPT wrappers at the beginning of this AI race. But now we see that those GPT wrappers are building like decacorns and the fast growing, kind of the fastest growing in the history, new type of SaaS company. Like you can think about Cursor, Lovable, Cresta, you name it. So they start from the user, and they start from actually using the most powerful models to unlock the user scenarios to show the real value. And it really works because the models are very powerful. But then when they scale, they actually start seeing the limitations of sitting only on top of the frontier models, the limitations that we discussed actually. The price, the unit economics, the technological moat, the data that need to apply safely, like sovereignty requirements, a lot of things. And this is the moment when they start shifting to open weight models, and they need infrastructure to serve it, and they need the tools to like actually lower the barrier for them to achieve the same results. Because when they come to Google or OpenAI, they actually not only getting the best models, but they also got a lot of like tooling around that. And I think what we do is actually helping them to achieve the same results or better results with the ecosystem of open source models. And we definitely believe that this will be the pattern when a lot of use case, a lot of companies, when they unlock the use case, they will either switch or combine different models, because for some use cases, you want the most powerful reasoning model that thinks long time, kind of, or has a higher cost, but provides like the best result. But for some other cases, you can think about like low latency scenarios or low cost scenarios. You may be satisfied with another model, and you can take it from open source. You can fine tune it and control. So it's not necessarily the full shift. Like it's more like building more comprehensive system to in a less naive way to serve the real SLAs. And that we see it as a trend. We see a lot of demand coming, and we see that open source, the ecosystem of open source models continue to be quite developed. We see NVIDIA pushes a lot on having enough of open source choices in the world. We see even the big labs are open sourcing some of their models. So it feels like a good trend.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely, I feel like more people are getting used to relying on those open source models. Like more everyday builders are finding ways to access those open source models and build on top of them, and not just default to the big frontier labs. I want to talk also about the year that you've had. I mean, I think you've raised billions. The share price is up several 100%. You signed, a deal with Microsoft that's just under $20 billion. This has been a phenomenal year for the team. Like, what's it been like working at the company during the course of 2025?
It was a lot of fun, a lot of non-sleeping nights, a lot of efforts, you can imagine. No, it's definitely one of maybe the fastest industry we ever saw in the world, in the history of the economics. Everything is moving so fast. The cycles are so fast. Like we just, it's crazy. We just 3 years from GPT-3 was released. This aha moment happened, and now we have like maybe the most impactful area in the world economics, like all this news about GDP is driven by infrastructure deployments and so on. So like everything is moving so fast, and we obviously super happy to be part of this race. And we see our role again as enabler, and we call us tech to tech companies. We really excited to work with all the great builders, foundational model builders, frontier labs, smaller labs, and obviously this new wave of vertical AI companies that doing such an amazing stuff that changes the businesses and changes the humans' experience every day. Yeah, it's just it's just very very fast run, and we see a lot of opportunities to create the value by our motto is this vertical integration. When you build all the layers from physical infrastructure through the robust cloud platform and then to value-added services to help people build, and yeah, that's a lot of fun and a lot of excitement from people use what you do and grow with you. It's great.
Yeah, no, and you know things are moving, like you say, so quickly. Things are changing so quickly. The whole industry is growing at an unprecedented rate. Given the speed at which things are changing and growing, are you able to plan effectively for 2026? I mean, things that the scale and the demand.
We obviously plan a lot. Obviously, our plans will be revised, and year is the century in this market. But I think like we have a very clear understanding, like the North Stars, the like goals that we going to, and I think that you could, in a simple words, it's two dimensions of scale of growth. Horizontal, like we just need to build more infrastructure. We have a very aggressive roadmap for new facilities for the next year, and the following years we invest a lot in A, physical infrastructure, and B, make sure that the platform is scalable and we can serve larger and larger customers. And then the second dimension is actually this building the new layers of the product offering and unlocking the new possibilities for our customers through software. And this is Token Factory, and we obviously have more plans for the next year, what new capabilities to the platform to bring.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting. I also wanted to touch on you listed on the NASDAQ, right? And being listed gives you access to kind of raise money in a different way to private companies to fund that expansion and to grow the infrastructure. But obviously you had such an interesting journey where your shares weren't being traded and then they were being traded again. Doing my research, I was like, what must that day have been like? What was that day like where you switched it back on, where your shares were being traded again? Did you have any idea about,
Yeah. No, it was absolutely crazy. Yeah. And it's really happened like almost overnight. So we just got a call from NASDAQ. Okay, you can trade again. And we're like, okay, but nobody knows us, like no coverage, no, like we have some legacy investors that invested back in Yandex and they just stuck in the stock and they like had no idea what we do. So it was just like full uncertainty. I think what helped us a lot is we've got some strategic investors that actually believed in us, and we just after the going public again or trades again, we had this pipe led by Axel Ventures and Nvidia that actually set the trust stamp on us. And I think then in the next like 6-9 months, it was like every month, like somebody new like learned about us, and we worked hard to get this awareness both in the product and in the market. And then Microsoft deal was obviously like the important milestone because finally everybody read about us in the news, even the people who didn't know. Like I had a funny stories, like my from people from my past 20 years ago, they just messaged me like, "Oh, I didn't know you do it." So it was quite a 5 minutes of the honor, I think now we finally in the right place from awareness perspective, and Nebius is in the kind of our industry of AI clouds, AI infrastructure is a well-known name.
Yeah.
What we need to do, the next step is actually position us as much more than infrastructure. We know, like we built in a lot internally, but I would say market yet don't know how much we can bring more than just GPU hours. And this is the next kind of milestone that we are targeting.
Got it. Okay, so greater awareness of the other side of your business. Also, when you were going through that whole transition from kind of Yandex to Nebius and, shares being traded to shares not being traded, did you ever consider actually maybe we should just entirely delist and become a private company again? Or were you always thinking actually being public and having that option is going to be a huge advantage to us when we get things up and running again?
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, I don't think we had a choice because we had a responsibility to our shareholders, and we definitely had to proceed this way. I think if you would have a choice, we would maybe prefer to be like private for some period of time. But in reality, that was a big luck for us to be on the public market that early, kind of like depending relatively to our level of much development of the company, because you're absolutely right. This is the market of combination of tech and capital, and being kind of in the public market opens a lot of opportunities to finance our growth. And I think this is quite unique thing about Nebius, that we started with some capital that we've got from like this painful but at the end successful kind of corporate restructuring after the Yandex, but then being so early relative to company journey to open markets, we got access to the capital to finance growth, and it let us do things even not standard for this new AI cloud world, when we can actually deploy capacity in advance, finance it from our balance sheet, and do this more like hyperscaler game on smaller scale, obviously, but not just deploying clusters for large customers.
Yeah, it's such an interesting business that you're building, and it's going so well. I think you're still one of the most unknown tech companies of your size in Europe. And I think the phrase that you gave is like tech to tech. It's such an interesting one because you are powering so much of the growth and the tech that we're seeing across Europe, whether it's from the smaller to the enterprise AI companies. But look, Roman, we're out of time. But I feel like I could chat ages about this. But thank you so much for joining me.
We should do it again. We have so many topics to cover, including European tech stack, by the way.
For sure. And I actually had a bunch of questions on that and your views on European tech stack versus US and infrastructure layer versus application layer. So look, if you've got time, let's definitely schedule a longer form interview at some point. I'd love that. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Well, that's great to talk. Thank you.